today's episode, I have the privilege of introducing Dr. Husna Begum. Dr. Husna is an academic doctor graduated with PhD from the prestigious National University of Singapore. She has experience as a scientist, clinical researcher, a healthcare quality improvement specialist, and also a mother. Husna and her family, especially her sisters, we go a long way back to our early days in Brunei Darussalam. Our fathers, who have passed on recently, may Allah grant them the highest status in paradise, were colleagues in the Science College, Maktab Science in Brunei. My father used to compare my brothers and I with her sisters and Husna. You all were the standard, the benchmark, because you were all intelligent and successful, mashallah. And I guess the rest is history. Assalamu alaikum, Husna, and thank you for taking the time on coming on the Middle Hustle podcast. How are you? And do you want to tell us, let's start by you telling us a little bit about your illustrious career and profile.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for having me on the show. Such kind words. And yes, it worked both ways. We used to have the same issue in our house where we would often compare to the Rahman brothers and made sure that we had to keep on top of them. So it was a constant healthy competition going on. But alhamdulillah, I have two young kids and, a career that's spanning over 14 years now across Singapore and Australia, and across all those different fields that you mentioned. That has given me many unique perspectives that I'm applying to my own, sort of life with my kids. So yes, very interested to do this podcast with you.
Thanks, Husna. Thank you, Husna. So again, like I said, I probably didn't do justice to your profile. Do you want to tell us, the last time, I know a little bit, but I'd like to get the viewers to understand your job description or what you do. Like, I think after we exited from Brunei to do our A levels in Malaysia, do you want to tell us how your journey went after that?
Yeah, sure. It's a bit of a long-winded one. So I started my, college thinking I'll do, science research. So very interested in medical research. So, I went into a life science stream in university in Singapore. And I did really well, alhamdulillah, and I was interested to basically pursue further studies and concentrate a little bit more because my degree was quite general. I found my passion in biochemistry. I was working with all things lipidomics. I was working as a lab scientist for over 6 years, where I completed my PhD in a very prestigious lab called the Wenk Lab. Very multinational, great research work done there. Learned a lot. And shortly after that, I was blessed to have an opportunity to do a joint position in Melbourne in the Baker IDI Heart and Diabetes Institute, where I was traveling frequently between the university in Singapore and Melbourne. That lasted a couple of years. I was, it's not exactly a very easy job to do, dealing with, hazardous chemicals, etc. And I knew that I wanted to be a mother, and I was worried about the, the side effects of all of these toxins I was inhaling on a daily basis. But also at that point of time when I came to Australia, I realized very quickly that the government priorities for research, medical research in particular, was vastly different between Singapore and Australia. It was not a stable field in Australia. I could see that if I wanted to stay in this sort of line of work, my employment opportunities would be limited. So then I transitioned to move towards clinical research, where I was working with clinical registries, which was completely new for me. And from there, I moved to working with large-scale clinical studies, including one which was on a sort of pandemic preparedness when the pandemic hit, which was ironic. I was pregnant with my second at the time. It was very interesting, very fast-paced work. And then, alhamdulillah, I got an opportunity to work at the peak body, which is dealing with clinical trials. And from there, I've now moved to work in the government sector, focusing on healthcare quality improvement, which is yet again a completely new field for me, which I have been in just under 2.5 years now. So that's been the long journey that I've taken, very different from what I studied. Yeah.
Mashallah, that's sounds very, very complicated, but at the same time, it sounds very, I don't know, it sounds very high up there. I can't find the words right now, but I think what I just wanted to ask, what's lipodemics? What's that?
Lipidomics. Yeah.
Lipidomics. Yeah,
So genomics is most commonly known as a study of the genomic profile.
yeah,
And so proteomics came about. There was a wave, in the 90s and early 2000s as the technology
yeah.
improved. So lipidomics
Mm.
is actually looking at the lipid profile of a person. So it's not
Lipid
our
profile.
traditional. Yeah, so it's not our
Mm.
traditional sort of, HDL, LDL kind of thing. We're actually looking at over 300 species of sphingolipids, phospholipids, glycerolipids, all these different types of lipids that we use specific instrumentation, such as the mass spectrometers, that are very expensive and very temperamental to deal with. To actually analyze the profile. So my work was actually very much involved with looking at inter-ethnic differences across
Okay,
the three major ethnic population groups in Singapore in terms
okay.
of what was their population risk. Metabolic risk for metabolic diseases. So it's interesting because, they live in Singapore very much like in Brunei and Malaysia and most of Southeast Asia. You have multiple ethnic groups that live, in a very similar environment. They share the food, they love for the love for culture, and very much, the differences are very hard to see, precisely because of
Yeah.
that. So when we do a lipidomic analysis for what we consider to be healthy individuals, we actually found that the risk differs very much across the three ethnicities. So it was, and then we added on an Australian cohort, and as you know, Australia is very mixed. So we had to take sort of a Caucasian cohort that was quite pure. That means going up to the great grandparents, making sure that they are not mixed in ethnicity to really see
Mm.
in that mix how the profile varies. Very interesting. A lot of this work is published. If you search up lipidomic profile, Husna Begum, you'll come
Yeah.
across a couple of papers.
Okay.
But yeah, very interesting work to see. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
Malays and Indians are often at higher risk. So we
Okay.
carry that risk, which means that this leads to the next stage of medical sciences, where when a patient of a certain cultural background walks in, we know their inherent risks are
All right.
higher. And so that
Okay.
would change the way treatments and therapies are developed. So that was the future
Really?
outlook of that work. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand this. Okay, I'm not trying to spend too much time on this, but so genetics, which is genomics, and that's a separate thing. And but you look into the lipid profile. I mean, different types of lipid profiles, and based on those lipid profiles, you can determine the risk factor for uh,
The risk across different ethnic groups for metabolic diseases, like, for example, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, basically, yeah. And although we do have lifestyle information from them,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
very much driven by their
Okay.
inherent differences because of the
So, and
ethnicity.
when you say inherent, this is what they would have passed down from their ancestors from previous
Correct,
generations.
correct.
Ah, okay.
Because
So,
we're
for
choosing a
example,
population. Yeah, because we're choosing a
yeah,
population that's quite clean, so no intermarriages. So it was a
all
very
right. So you're
specific
being
cohort of people. Yeah.
pure breeds,
Yeah.
something like
Pure
that.
breeds. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So if let's say if someone has grandparents had history of hypertension and diabetes and well, and the subsequent generation, the risks for developing metabolic disease is higher. Is that correct?
I would presume so, but this study was looking more in terms of if you didn't have any risk factors at all,
Yeah.
just what is the difference between a Malay person, a Chinese person, and an Indian person, simply when you
Okay.
are at the same basal level of not having any
Oh,
risk factors, and how that
okay.
is driven by the fact that it's pretty much pure genetics and lifestyle that's driving it, right? because you don't
Okay.
have any inherent risk factors.
Yeah.
So that itself means when we consider normal baseline variation, after
Yeah.
accounting for technical variation of instrumentation, etc., there is quite a lot of variation across ethnicity that is significant. So we can identify already those lipid markers that we can now say this is important because we can use these markers to differentiate what is causing the difference in their risks across the different ethnicities.
Wow. It
It is
sounds
complex.
very.
I
It's very
hope I made
complicated.
some. I hope I
Yeah.
made some justice to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely
But
keen to share the
inshallah, it's very
papers.
good. Yeah, I think we'll probably have to have a separate discussion about this if people are interested. Just let me know. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And
So
just to let everyone know, this is research from probably over 15 years ago. So
15 years ago, yeah, and this is
yeah.
only based in the Southeast Asian sort of setting, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm
Where
my PhD was focused on the Singaporean population across the three
Singaporean
ethnic
population,
groups. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, which
and
is
I
very
compared it
similar, yeah,
in
yeah,
composition, yeah,
S-
to the rest of Southeast Asia.
composition, and would that reflect to a Caucasian, like a Western society, like Australia, New Zealand, or UK or America, sort of thing, or
Yeah, so we compared it to an Australian Caucasian population only. As
yeah,
well. That was part of
yeah,
my postdoc work after my PhD. And yeah, we also saw a lot of inherent differences. I can't say
yeah,
exactly what the exact differences were in terms of significance results. It has been a long time, but yeah, happy to
yeah.
look that up and
Okay, all
chat
right.
further.
Chat further. Okay. Now, how do people like if people want to know, like, I mean, it's clinical researcher, scientist, PhD, like, if for our younger listeners who are out there,
Yeah.
how would they like how would they how would they do what you're doing? Like how do they get to what you're doing?
I think it's all about having passion for what you do and also being given the right opportunity at the right time. I think for me, there were many periods of time in my career where I was like wavering, should I, move into this, into that, considering industry, etc. But like many young people, I was once upon a time the person that knew what I did not want, but I didn't know what I wanted. So that was enough to sort of, it was difficult, but it was enough to get me going in terms of, okay, I don't want this career path. So what can I actually do? And like many, sort of young people who are in research who are very motivated, I think industry is often a first career choice because of stability, the incentives both financially and others, and
Yes.
also for moving up the career quickly.
Yeah.
But I was in a position where I just wanted to confirm with myself if this was a career path I really did not want. So doing a postdoctoral research after my PhD seemed like a logical choice. But because I had changed from being in a country where it was of priority to a country that it wasn't, I very quickly saw that it was not viable as a long term career choice. The
Okay.
constant needing to apply for very competitive grants.
Yeah.
Was difficult. So I started to look out, and I must say it was probably the hardest point in my career journey to actually make the move from being a laboratory scientist to a clinical researcher. Because number one, I did not study in Australia. So I
Yes.
had no Australian connections apart from whoever I got in my postdoc.
Yes.
And it's a very tight knit circle, I would say, among academics here. So moving out of that is quite tough. Um, and the cultural differences are quite a lot, when you compare to Southeast Asia as well as here. Here, a lot of networking happens informally, over drinks, in the bar or after conference, etc., which was not really sort of aligned with my values. So it made it a little bit more tricky. But Alhamdulillah, don't lose faith because at the end of the day, something will be out there. I ended up, informally through one of those multiple coffee catch-ups, meeting someone who had a position in a clinical registry in Monash, which was housed literally like, 2 minutes from where the current building I was working on.
Okay.
So it gave me an opportunity and insight to start working with them and identify the whole new world of clinical registries and the regulations surrounding them, because I never heard of clinical registries before in Singapore. So it was a whole new field. I'd worked across um, different registries. I'd worked on the breast device registry. I'd worked in the orthopedic trauma registry,
Yeah.
and then I moved into the intensive care space just around the
Yeah.
COVID time. So
Yeah.
that was perhaps the space I worked the longest,
Yeah.
and it was a
Okay.
constant need to upskill. But
Yeah.
don't give up. Something will come up. You just have to make yourself malleable. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, sounds like you've been through quite a bit there. I mean, what sort of challenges have you found in the work that you do? Do you have any challenges at all?
Um, I think it's for me the biggest one has been learning how to work with different teams, because the team structure is really, really important. You may like the job, the role, but often you have to work in a team. And if you're not happy with the style of the team, that or it doesn't mold with what you normally do, it is quite
Yeah.
tough.
Yes.
Although I've been in Australia for 14 years now,
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, I'm still learning new Aussie words every day, and I'm not shy to ask my colleagues, what does prezzo mean? And they're like, oh, that means
Prezzo.
presentation. And I'm like,
Prezzo.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
And those kind of things. But
Yeah.
one of the biggest challenges for me is really, I think that is more the soft skills. Making sure I integrate myself into the team, and also finding my place with my manager or my director is a new
Yeah.
thing. I think that was because I had changed fields. I had to start from the base again. Upskilling was not a problem at all. Although I've worked across different areas, it's your sort of PhD research background kicks in. You have to learn new things in a very short amount of time. You read papers, you memorize, you upskill. That's anyone can do, but it's the soft skills, making sure you're the right fit for the team, the job is right for you, the manager is the right person for you, who can actually take your career up, who can be your mentor, who, sort of will teach you how to play the game when it is needed, those kind of things, those nuances, because they exist in every sector that I've worked in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you're visibly a Muslim woman. Yeah. You're Muslim.
Yeah.
You're visibly. Do you find, you know, wearing the hijab, and is that, do you find any difficulties in your work environment? Did you find any discrimination?
Not really. I think there was a period of time where I was a bit uncomfortable when, sort of like team lunches were often held in a restaurant that was connected to a bar, those kind of things. And I was sort of had that mental sort of debate between, should I be a party pooper and say I can't go
Yeah.
because of another reason, or should I just, buckle up and tell them I'm not comfortable, I'm sorry. And I
Yeah.
have reached the stage where I just voice out because I'm
Okay.
comfortable to be who I am in my space.
Yes. Yes.
But I think younger on, when I was not in a stable position in my work, and sort of you do, I think that was quite difficult.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say open discrimination. I did get a lot of remarks and things like, oh, your English is very good. Oh, you've done a PhD. Wow. Oh, you're a doctor. Like those kind of things. And I think it's more the preconceived notion that women, and that to Muslim women, is like
Correct.
can't actually and speak English
Achieve.
better
Yeah.
than a lot of
Yes.
locals. You'd be amazed at the level of I would say English caliber,
Yeah.
that some locals go through, and we often share this internally within our team as a joke, how migrants have to go through very tough IELTS results, whereas
Correct.
it doesn't do justice to the fact that we actually speak multiple languages. But again, it speaks to how we were brought up. It's
Yes.
just we
Yes.
were always brought up in an environment where we had to work hard, we had to fight really hard for what our place in a certain environment. So which means that our basal threshold is already quite high to
Yes.
begin with.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm quite thick-skinned.
Yeah.
When people do say that, I just
Okay.
sort of take it
Yeah.
as it comes.
I think you have. it's that stereotype, isn't it? You've already been stereotyped. People have that biasness in you, and you gotta have to break that away.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I yeah, it's there, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be
Yeah.
compared to some other people. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you've worked in Singapore, you've worked in Australia. Any differences that you find? Any?
Yeah, I think the work culture is quite different. That's the first thing that's attracted me to come to Australia permanently. I mean, I had an opportunity to become a Singapore citizen, and that very year, a couple of months
Yeah.
before my interview, I left,
Yeah.
knowing that I was giving up a very good opportunity, and which after spending 10 or 12 years there,
Yeah.
it was hard. But then at that point of time, me and my husband, we talked about it and we realized that Singapore is great if you are, sort of single, studying, working, just starting off in your career. But the moment you want to
Yeah.
think about having kids, especially if you're not a local, and raising them in that sort of culture where work is just over the top, like you're often seen as easily replaceable because of the sheer competition and the way that
Correct.
mindset works, that long hours, which I think is not great because it means you're not being productive. But here in Australia, there's a lot of respect in terms of work boundaries. If it's your day off, you're not expected to reply or work or etc. Again, there
Yeah.
are exceptions in certain circumstances, but but the fact that people actually understand that and value that
Yeah.
and respect that,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
biggest difference, which was the deal breaker for me.
That's good. I agree. I totally agree with that. Yeah. You have that sort of, like I say, you have a bit of some work-life balance, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
very, very important.
in Singapore, it's like a rat race. Everybody is
It is.
trying to is out achieve you and all that. I mean, people who do not know this is very famous saying "kasu." Yeah,
Yes.
"kasu." It's called "afraid to lose." It's a very Singaporean term, but it's got Malaysian and Brunei roots to it as well.
Yeah.
Now, okay, we'll sort of take a segue into something. I know that you make your own washing detergent, you make your own soaps, Husna. Now that's when I met you, that was amazing. I was really impressed. I was very impressed, and I was like, so do you want to do? I don't know, how do you do that? And it's like, what made you do that? Like,
So
yeah,
I'll bring you down a little bit of a memory lane for that. So I
yeah,
had my daughter in I was like the person who read up on everything, right? The researcher planning
yes,
everything. But my
yeah,
first pregnancy went completely out of the window. I was a high risk. I had a procedure when I was 2 weeks pregnant. It
yeah,
was, and I was just, anyway, the emergency procedure that resulted in her birth
yeah,
meant that she was constantly sick and lots of problems. And
yeah,
I was in a position where my mental health was taking a toll.
yeah,
um, 18 months in, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And things would go, my health was declining. And at that point, I got, I think shortly after that, about 2.5 years, I was pregnant with my second when I actually came across one of these lactation biscuits, that they make. Can't remember the name of the companies. And through that, I read a couple of blog posts that led me down a rabbit hole of naturopathy.
yeah,
I ended up finding a group called Natural Super Kids. It's based
yeah,
in South Australia. A very well known
yeah,
practitioner, Jessica Donovan. And I was like, oh, but this is an extra expense. COVID time, money was tight. And I was like, extra every month. But it was a community. We had all sorts of things. You could ask questions. The naturopath would answer them for free on a free, Facebook Live every week. There was no
yeah,
limit as to how many questions you can ask. You could do
yeah,
consults. And then I started to learn a lot of things from there.
yeah,
So when I gave birth to my second child, I was equipped with all this knowledge. and I tried to do everything that I felt was opposite to what I did with my first. Already, I didn't have an opportunity to do with my first child, and I
Yeah.
saw a massive difference. I saw a massive difference. First of all, apart from the fact that, I was mentally more prepared. It was COVID, so there was not so much expectations on me. I could spend the time. I could breastfeed longer. So my second child's immunity was a lot better. But also, I realized that I didn't resort to filling in that antibiotic script every time the GP gave that to me. And I was like, nope, I'm going to make an informed decision myself. I am going to decide what my child is going to have, because I come from a medical research background, and I think I
Yeah.
know what's best for my child. Not I think, I do know what's best for my child. So I started to take the staged approach where I started to think back about, not using steroids, puffers, and all these things, which came naturally to me with my first child. And until now, this like my first child is 8 years old, and she still gets infections easily, takes longer to recover. Although
Yeah.
naturopathy has helped her a lot, she's come a
Yeah.
long way. It's very
Yeah.
different from my second child. So I
Yeah.
started to take gradual steps. Through the world of naturopathy, I started to enroll myself in a lot of courses. I found
Yeah.
a functional practitioner that's based in the US, was once a practicing doctor, and found the same issues. She focuses on women, mostly in perimenopause and menopause. So that really attracted me to her. And also with one her works, there was a lot of reference to an Australian environmental engineer who has written a book. Her name is Laura Trotter. So I did courses on how to make your own stuff. And lo and behold, like a lot of the issues we face actually kind of disappeared. We just started to really read ingredients, understand all the labels, the colors, the additives, the preservatives.
Yeah.
Although clean products are sold or marketed as green, green, they actually
Yeah.
aren't. There's
Yeah.
so much false campaigning out there. And sort of,
Yeah.
looking into the ethical space a little bit more. And if we can make it our own, why not? Using a few household ingredients you can get from the
Yeah.
supermarket. It's not
Yeah.
expensive, and I know what's
Yeah.
exactly going into our,
Yeah.
system. So yeah, so we started a journey. I do, sort of time to time, if I'm really time poor, I do use certain brands that
Yeah.
I like. I properly
Yeah.
vet, but I wouldn't go back to most of the brands that I would have used in the
Oh wow.
past. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But isn't there like a conflict? You being like a medical researcher, scientist, and going and being on the naturopath. Is there no conflict? Is there?
Not really. In fact, I think there's a lot of synergy between the two. And I used to think to
Yeah.
myself, if I ever had a career break and I had the opportunity to not work, I would
Yeah.
actually do an entire naturopathy course, like a whole
All
bachelor's.
right.
I'm
Okay.
very interested in this space, and not just
Yeah.
naturopathy. I've actually gone down the whole route of, homeopathy, understanding homeopathy, understanding Ayurveda, and understanding nutrition itself as a base.
Yeah.
And I am actually just thankful for the opportunity to actually engage with these practitioners in Australia, because I know in many countries you don't actually have that, because these practitioners are well
Yeah.
accredited for the work that they do. And I've just been lucky to be able to get good people to help me,
Yeah.
and who
Yeah.
who actually teach me as well. My nutritionist, she talks biochemistry to me, and she knows that my
Yeah.
background's biochemist, and we're like nerds. We talk about
Yeah.
mitochondria and energy, and and she does a lot of research as well. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of synergy. And the
Yeah.
nutritionist actually marries naturopathy with science as
Wow.
well. So there's a lot of things that you'd understand better.
So but
Yeah,
you're saying they sort of like they work together.
they work together.
They're
They work
synergistic
together.
to each other.
They are
All
synergistic.
right.
I think homeopathy, I'm not that well versed. It will be
Yeah.
difficult to I'm still, I'm seeing
Yeah.
effects, so I'm
Yeah.
kind of convinced. But although I don't know how exactly it works,
Yeah.
biochemically, but for
Yeah.
naturopathy, yes, definitely, because it's all about, if you
Yeah.
think about it, going back to basics, thinking
Yeah.
about eating, not just thinking about eating organic, but our grandparents or great grandparents' time, where they
Yeah.
did not eat much processed foods. Anything that was
Yes. Yes.
packaged and not
Yes.
fresh is not
Yeah.
there. There were no
Yeah.
fridges or microwaves. although
Yeah.
yes, these are conveniences I cannot live without, but
Yeah.
if I have a choice, I would meal prep and just freeze meals that I know what's going into my body.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk and research even in the medical line. Every food, we have to try and avoid ultra processed food. From a health perspective, it's bad for the gut microbiome and all sorts
Exactly.
of things, microplastics and toxicology. There's a lot of stuff out there. And
Exactly.
I think going back to eating food that looks like how it was harvested and just
Correct.
trying to eat as clean as possible. I think that's what, yeah, I think that's what yeah, even in the medical line, everyone is sort of now advocating for that and going back
I
to, like
agree.
you said, going back to basics, going back to
Yeah.
basics. Yeah. Now, yeah, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that the gut microbiome was the first thing that I was exposed to when I
Yeah.
started to upskill myself, in the knowledge in the naturopathy space, and there's so much research out there. You would
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
imagine, just even from mental health to
Mm,
cancer to,
yeah.
metabolic disorders, everything, it starts from the gut, and that gut. How you shape
Yeah.
that gut starts right from birth. So it was a very personal
Correct.
journey for me because I knew my
Correct.
daughter had an emergency cesarean. She was on so
Mm,
many antibiotics. She lost her hearing
yeah.
at 10 months,
Yeah.
pretty much deaf. And then she was on all these steroids. And I think about
Mm,
how that has set up her gut microbiome. And
yeah.
although I've tried my very best and I've seen
Yeah.
improvements, there's already
Yeah.
damage done.
Yes.
Whereas,
Yes. Yes. It takes
for
a
my son, the
it
different
it's
experience.
yeah, gut mic. Like I said, we have probably, I think there's so many topics to talk about with you, Husna. We have to like have five different sessions to talk about different things. Like I said, gut microbiome is a huge topic, and people
Yeah,
are sort of getting into it now. It's like an ecosystem. Yeah, you got to give prebiotics, then the probiotics, then the postbiotics, and
exactly.
it's the brain gut axis. Like I said, we'll probably have another session, which kind of nicely segues into my other question. So now that you're making your own products, your dishwashing products, your washing products, now with cost of living being so high and people finding hard for ends to meet, like, do you think this is like a side hustle for you if you were to sell your products at some stage?
I have been asked that by a lot
Yeah.
of close friends who are, willing to pay the price as long as I make it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the moment, for me, my biggest factor is time. I am, very limited with my
Time.
time. And if I had the right
Yes.
equipment and
Yes.
right facility, I could bulk them up. But also remember, when you make these things at home, they don't have a very long
Yeah.
shelf life because they don't have
Correct.
preservatives and chemicals in them. So it's
Mm.
meant to be used quickly and replenished
Mm.
quickly as well. So you can't
Okay.
exactly batch produce them in large amounts and store
Mm.
them, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
because they are not that difficult to make, like I just made
Mm.
another batch of dishwasher tablets like yesterday, it's not
Okay.
that difficult to make once you have the setup. But I
Okay.
think what I would rather is to empower people to do it
Yep.
like themselves. I know people are time poor. I'm time poor too,
Yeah.
working full time and having two kids,
Yeah. Yes.
but
Absolutely.
you can do it. You can. It's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to actually be able to do it. Like I literally read instructions from the
Yeah.
course, and then
Yeah.
being my scientist, I was like weighing, measuring, and every time I sort of just knew what
Do
I needed to do, and then made them, and
do
it
do you
worked.
have a lab? Do you have a lab at home, Husna?
A mini lab. I'm missing my laboratory days, Shafiq. So yes,
You
I,
have
I
your
sometimes wish I had like a burette, so I could
yeah.
pipette out exact amounts.
Yeah, yeah, like they have that in the movies, or the kids, they
Yeah.
have this mini lab in the basement or in the attic, and they coming up with fancy different chemicals, and the whole house explodes.
In a lab coat with mad hair. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
me.
Oh, that's really good. I mean, like I said, inshallah, Allah make it easy for you, and hopefully you
Inshallah.
can, provide this knowledge. It's yeah, may provide this
Inshallah.
knowledge,
Yeah.
inshallah. Hopefully, very
Oh,
good. Now, again, like I said, with everything is being so high, what are you doing? Any strategies? What sort of how are you managing with the high cost of living, high cost of groceries?
I think
Yeah.
making them
What do you,
some
any advice for our listeners?
I think prioritize. You can't have a perfect
Yeah.
lifestyle where you can eat everything organic or cook everything
Mm.
fresh, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I think learning from experience, I've learned to say it's okay to have a takeaway food, like
Mm.
once a fortnight, and not feel guilty about it as long as
Mm.
what it has inside. It's
Correct.
okay to not have fresh meals every day as long as you meal prep and you put it in your fridge and you just make do with what you have. But also at the same point of time, if you make a lot of these products, the cost of living, like you actually help with your
Mm.
expenses because, for example, making dishwashing soap, you basically need pure Castile soap, liquid soap, and you need some good quality essential oils. A
Mm.
tiny bottle of essential oil may cost you maybe about $30 to $50, but it lasts
Mm.
you forever. Like I've had mine for
Yeah.
more than 2 years now and I'm still
All
using it.
right.
And, and these are all pure, clean ingredients. And you may need fresh lemons. I go to my neighborhood. I look around who's got lemon trees. I knock at the door and ask them, can I have some lemons? And, some people now know me probably as a strange lady from the street who always comes looking for lemons, those kind of things. And people are just generally generous. And
Yeah.
I explain sometimes to people when I have the time,
Yeah.
and when they do are curious
Yeah.
that you've got a child who's got health needs, and
Yeah.
and when they understand your passion and the reason why you do things, just become so much easier. This is what like I'm reading this book called The Baraka Effect, right? So The
Mm.
Productive Muslim, from
Yeah.
Muhammad Faris, and I've learned so much in terms of how we can't quantify everything in dollars and cents, and how there's
Yeah.
baraka in everything that we do. So for me, I feel like the cost of living has increased a lot. Choose
Mm.
organic where you can. You don't have to
Yeah.
buy everything organic. Meal prep where you can. This is just to
Mm.
avoid
Yeah.
hunger shopping and buying triple the amount of food that you don't need, or, doing
Yeah.
takeaways that are expensive and unhealthy. Make
Yeah.
your own products where possible, because,
Yeah.
a 5 liter Castile soap, liquid Castile soap, can last you a long time.
Castile. What's Castile? Sorry.
So it's just
Castile.
a pure, yeah, Castile soap. So it's a
Castile.
purest form of natural soap. You can get it in
Okay.
bar or in liquid form.
Okay.
There are many different brands out there. So I usually look
Yeah.
for a good quality, sort of organic one.
Mm.
And every time I make like dishwashing soap, I literally need a bit of warm water, a little bit of Castile soap, and essential oils. Shake it up,
Yeah.
and it's super soapy. Like
Yeah.
it's all I need.
Wow.
Dishwasher tablets, the same thing. You can get a couple of
Yeah.
ingredients: washing
Yeah.
soda, salt. All these are what's going in there, and you don't
Yeah.
have all this extra list.
Okay.
So yeah, you definitely can make a lot of cuts to your cost. I feel like I used to pay exorbitant amounts for finished dishwasher tablets, but now I make them at probably, like, I can't even like say how much each tablet costs. It's probably going to be very, very minimal, but there
Okay.
are strategies you can do. And the other thing as well is kids snacks for the kids is a bit of
Yeah.
a tough one, especially when they
Yeah.
start school. They compare, they want things. I think it's
Yeah.
also for them to educate your kids to understand that you can't always eat everything.
Yeah.
For me, I often use the halal excuse, which works for
Hmm.
now. I don't know how long that will last, but it's also
Yeah.
for them to understand that when you have artificial colors and things like that, some of the food products sold
Mm.
here in Australia do contain quite a few additives and preservatives that require mandatory food warning labels in the EU. And it comes to me as quite a shock that we still sell this openly in Australia, because these, additives, these colors, they actually do have impact. That it's
Yeah.
linked, the research is linked to so many problems in children, like skin problems, health,
Okay.
like respiratory problems is a big one. So here we
Okay.
are pondering on why, these diseases
Yeah.
are on the rise. It's because
Yeah.
of that. So if you think from
All
that
right.
perspective, buy healthy snacks for your kids when they are
Mm.
go on special,
Yeah.
then bulk up.
Bulk
You
up.
save a lot. Like I've got a
Yeah.
pantry
Yeah.
where rice crackers stacked up against the wall.
All
Um,
right. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so yeah,
All right.
you'll
Okay.
always find ways.
Yeah, that's interesting, Pusta. Now, I know we can't tell what the future holds, but just how would you sort of see your industry in the next 5 to 10 years? How would you sort of see how your industry is going, society? You know, what I don't. Yeah,
I'm an optimist, so
yeah,
I'm at the moment I'm working in healthcare quality improvement, which is
yeah.
kind of very different from what I used to be working at. I think there's a lot of scope and potential to be in this space, but probably move more into
Yes,
a bit more of policy and strategy, perhaps, because at the end of the day, my passion is to make an impact on people, an impact that you can see. But at the same point of time, I also noticed from a personal front that a lot of people are becoming more health literate when it comes to understanding a lot about, sort of natural foods, and that how, you know, marketing schemes that these people are using, it's just ridiculous, market, that you don't always believe what you read or what you see. So as people, sort of become a little bit more knowledgeable in this space, which
yeah,
I'm seeing now, hopefully it will push the very manufacturers to start making healthy food, because this is what consumers want. And that is my hope, to see
yeah,
that in the future, because
yeah.
there are multiple places, countries in the world, like in Nordic countries, etc., where, they have to make health warnings on that particular like pack of food, that, oh, this product contains XYZ, which can cause XYZ. Now, tell me which consumer
Wow.
is going
Okay.
to buy that. So if
Yeah,
we have
absolutely.
that movement from the people here in Australia, I'm hoping that this will push the manufacturers, at the moment, who are obviously earning very well for making a lot of false claims and using a lot of chemicals, to actually produce food that is real,
Yeah,
because
true.
this is our next generation that we are
Yeah, yeah.
sort of feeding. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are becoming a bit more, like I said, information is easily available nowadays. You go on YouTube, everything, Google, YouTube, everything is out there. And people are
Correct.
becoming a bit more health conscious. They're becoming, people are becoming more health conscious. And like you said, I think as consumers, you want to make sure you have that, the products that are available out there are good for your health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And supporting small businesses, because there are people out
Yeah.
there who have had these ideas of, like, making their own products and etc. Support
Yeah.
them. Like, I have a
Yes.
few favorite brands of mine that are Australian made. Often they're women, family women, like,
Yeah.
they started making these products out of desperation because of issues, and these are the very people we need to support,
Yes.
not just
Absolutely.
big brands, because
Correct.
they've come a
Yeah.
long way. Yeah.
Yeah. Support the small businesses, the local businesses.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Husna. I mean, I think last question or second last question. If Brunei days, anything you miss, anything you miss or you don't miss about your days in Brunei?
I think we had a very good childhood in Brunei.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I really missed the fact that things were very simple back then. The
Yeah.
simplicity of things, and being a parent myself now, I can see a huge difference. I think everything in Brunei when we were growing up was a bit backward, which helped us because we had a very good childhood. So I miss just the food. I love food. I'm a foodie. The
Yeah.
food, the giving, the culture that was quite giving. Although, yeah, there was a bit of racism growing up as well, but just the whole general culture of like
Yes.
food, and
Yeah.
yeah, I just I miss that a lot, and I had some
Yeah.
really made some very good friendships there,
Yeah.
and with all dispersed around the world now, but
Yeah.
it's just great to keep in touch with those people. So that's what I
Yeah.
really miss. The racism I don't
Yeah.
miss.
Yeah, exactly. No, I second that. Now, um, is there anything that I've missed that you wanted to talk about today?
No, I think, like you said, we have so many conversation topics, and they probably
Yeah,
warrant their own, time.
yeah,
But it's been a journey for me, and I'm hoping that if
yeah,
anyone listens to this and feel like, oh, that sounds similar, I went through this phase. I'm like, don't
yeah.
give up hope. There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely.
Often you just have to find the right information. Just make sure it's legitimate. because there's a lot of disinformation as well. And just keep hopeful, and
Yeah,
always remember the effect of barakah in things that you do. So
inshallah.
it's not always about numbers and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, well said, Husna, well said. And may Allah continue to grant you, increase your risk and increase your barakah in whatever you do.
Ameen,
Yeah,
ameen, inshallah.
inshallah. Now, Husna, thank you. It was an amazing conversation. It was a very interesting one. Like you said, we'll probably have hopefully a few episodes with you talking about probably your research, your
Yeah,
lipidemics,
lipidomics.
and I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
Lipidomics, and
lipidomics, that's
again,
right.
your lipidomics and your amazing how to do DIY detergents. You know,
Yes, yes.
that's a big thing. It could be a big a side hustle there. Anyway,
Yeah,
Husna, thank you very much, and inshallah, we'll speak again.
inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you for being
Thank
on.
you. See you.
Thank you for listening till the end. I hope you have enjoyed the episode. If this is something of interest or someone may benefit from this, please share, follow, and subscribe. See you in the next episode.